Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Podpaca. Few quick things before we start here. First, this episode is presented by Lucky Tree and its family of stores. Shop at Lucky Tree in downtown Waupaca today. They are open Monday through Saturday. Also, this episode is going to have a mature content and language warning because there is some mature content and there is some minor language. We're not dropping F-bombs or anything. This is like language you'd hear at any middle or high school. And also, today we are talking with our special guest, Laura Colbert. And at the time we talked to her, Laura had a position at the Waupaca Community Arts Hub, and now her position is at the Waupaca Parks and Recreation Department because she just became the director of the Parks and Recreation Department in Waupaca. Congratulations to her on her new position. If you see her out and about or know her, tell her congrats because that's a big deal. And now here is this episode of Podpaca. Today, our guest on Podpaca is Laura Colbert. She is the former Waupaca Middle School principal, and she is now the director at the Waupaca Community Arts Hub. So please welcome Laura Colbert to Podpaca.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Hi, Laura. So I'm real curious about the Waupaca Community Arts Hub because this arts hub is a lot newer than the other arts organizations in the Waupaca area. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to know if you could talk about what the Arts Hub is planning and what they're wanting to achieve and how they're different than the other arts organizations in Waupaca, because I know that can be a little, people can mix that up sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's get started. I'll explain the different entities and then how the Arts Hub came to be and then where we're at today. So a while back in I think it was 1967, the Waupaca Fine Arts Board was established. And what they do is the community concerts and the theatrical performances that happen within Waupaca. And the Fine Arts Show, which was on March 26th this spring. And WACAB, which is the Waupaca Community Arts Board, that started in 2007. And that puts on the Articipation Week and the art festival that happens in August. And they put on the Summer Nights concerts and the Bach Fest and, just some of the random stuff that happens throughout the year. So what they wanted to do was tie in all of these cultural entities within Waupaca. So they started the Waupaca Area Arts and Culture Network, otherwise known as WACN. And so when you hear WACN or WAACN, that is a compilation of all of these different arts organizations coming together, including the Winchester Academy, the Historical Society. And that group plans such things as the Yuletide Trail that happens in December. And also just keeps everything flowing smoothly so that there's not events happening at the same time and that we can all work together and have a really great and robust arts and culture network in Waupaca. And what the WACAB or the Community Arts Board was thinking last year was that there's no art school right now in Waupaca. There's no extension of the arts from the school district into the community. And so they decided to develop a program called the Arts Hub, which is what I am the director of. And what we do then is we have private music lessons, group lessons for music, and then a whole bunch of art classes all year round. And historically, we started in April of 2021 with one music instructor and then 4 art classes in the summer. And now we've grown where we've got 6 music instructors. So we have everything from vocals to guitar to bass to ukulele, piano, drums, mandolin. I mean, it's pretty much everything you can dream up. We could probably provide it. And if we don't have somebody who can do it right now, we can look for that entity in the future. Oh, and we do, band instruments as well. And so music is just growing, and we've offered group ukulele classes for kids and adults. We're going to have a teen drum circle coming up July 27th. So let all the teenagers know. And then in the fall, we'll continue with group lessons, and we're going to start a rock band with some of our students right now, which is going to be really cool. And then art has grown so much so that we have just hired a resident artist. His name is Tim Pachillo. And what he's going to do is he's going to make sure that there are art classes all throughout the year, like I mentioned, but he's going to kind of grow off of each other and meet the community where they're at. So if they request something, he can just be there to teach them that. He also has an extensive both education and professional background in digital arts. So he can bring that aspect. So we're looking for one-on-one devices for students so that they can learn how to do graphic design, make their own video games, and just really kind of dive into that digital aspect, which is going to be really exciting for the hub. We also offer a lot of adult classes. We are going to have a really full and robust schedule in the fall for adults, as well as for kids ages 7 to 11 or 7 to 12. And then we're looking to really meet the demographic of the teens, which has been kind of our missing demographic. So Tim Pachillo has 2 kids that are in their teens. So we're hoping that his expertise and stuff will all help. And we did a teen survey in the spring to see what they're interested in. And we are looking to start a 4K through 7-year-old class as well. And then have drop-ins once or twice a month where people can come and knit and crochet or just do fine arts. So lots and lots and lots of stuff on the docket. And you can find all of our information on waupacaartshub.org is our website, waupacaartshub.org. And we'll have all of our fall stuff up definitely by the end of July. So come back and look and sign up for classes. That was a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. That means it just makes the Community Arts Hub, like, it shows how much it's grown already since
Absolutely.
2021.
Absolutely.
I am wanting to dive into a few of the things that you had mentioned. You said that the art and music classes are for 7 to 12-year-olds, correct?
So our kid ukulele class was like up till teenage. And then our kid classes are usually range from 7 to 12, but we've had some teen classes too, and they can always sign up for the adult classes that are offered. I think teens would gravitate more towards adults than towards the younger kids anyways. But we are definitely, as the drum circle states, looking to create things that are specifically for the teens. And whether it's more of an art club or group as opposed to an art class, then we might do that as well.
And is this all for beginners, or are there certain classes that are for people that already have a little bit of experience in an instrument or with a specific type of art?
Yeah, so the art classes are typically for that beginner level, but that's what's great about Tim is as our community grows, he can grow with them and start offering more intermediate art classes, or we can bring in artists that have a higher skill and can reach the needs of our mid-range artists here in town. And as far as music is concerned, we've got some very, very, very talented musicians, some of whom traveled around the world touring with bands. And so they're really accomplished and are able to meet the needs of a lot of ranges of abilities with instruments. And we just hired Kathy Hammond, who you might know, Joe, from the high school, because she used to be the choir director there, and she can do intermediate piano and vocals with people in our community. So we are going to be able to go up a notch with our piano instructing.
How do you acquire funding for this?
Yeah, so we are always looking for donations, and we have done a few fundraising events with another one scheduled in September. We charge the families to take the lessons and to take the classes. So to take a half-hour music lesson is $23 for half hour. And usually art classes are anywhere. I mean, it just depends on how long the art classes are for. But right now our summer sessions for kids are $35 for 2 days for an hour and a half each day. And our adult sessions, which range anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, are $55. And that usually covers about half to about 65% of our budget needs. And the rest, we really need donations to cover operational costs. And we do offer, since we want to be an inclusive organization that meets the needs of all of our community members, we offer a scholarship for our families who might have some financial needs. And they just have to fill out a really easy form on our website. And then they get quite a lot off their lessons or the classes. And we've received some scholarship donations from Rotary and from the Purfreeville Church. And yeah, like I said, we're always looking for donations or people willing to give to scholarships.
Are you nonprofit then?
We are. We're a 501c3. Yeah.
That's good to know. Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you said you have what, 2 fundraisers a year then?
Yeah, so we did a community game night back in April. And, we try to get the word out as much as we can through Parks and Rec and through the school district and just through our own Facebook page and blast through the arts and culture newsletter. It wasn't as highly attended as we had thought, but we had a lot of really great and wonderful collaborations. Like the library came and did a game, and the woman at the chain bar came and she ran bingo for us. We had a sheep's head tournament and we had all these kids things to do and, cornhole toss. And so we're hoping that it'll pick up steam and get a little bit more attendance in the future. And I mean, everybody who came had a great time. It just wasn't as highly attended as we had hoped. And then we're going to do something in the fall, maybe at the chain bar, where we're going to have live music and a silent auction on art and stuff like that.
No, I wanted to ask you as well. You, for those who may not know you or anything, what are your ties to Waupaca? I mean, did you pretty much grow up here? My understanding is you kind of grew up here and in Minocqua both.
Yeah, so I was born in Minocqua, so I can't say born and raised in Waupaca, but I moved here when I was 8 and graduated high school here, and then moved away for 17 years and came back in 2017 as the middle school assistant principal at the time. And then a year and a half later, got the principal job. So and my husband and I and our kids, we love it here. I mean, it's a little slice of heaven, and it's really exciting to have a hand in developing some really exciting opportunities for the future youth of Waupaca. Maybe some things that weren't available back when I was living here as a youth, like in the 90s. And coming back here and having access to a lot more things to do has been a really rewarding thing as a parent.
Mm-hmm. Really bothers me that you say as a youth in the 90s. I think of youth, I'm thinking, early 70s.
I'm aging myself.
Is there a reason that you decided to come back to Waupaca after 17 years of living elsewhere?
Yeah, so it's funny because I never thought I would move back. In fact, I didn't think I'd even live in Wisconsin because I'd lived in England, I lived in Fargo. I was just going to be a jet setter or a gypsy or whatever you want to call it forever. And then, I think that I'm a veteran, and when I got back from Iraq, I think I really just needed those core relationships closer to me. So I moved to Madison. And then when I was pregnant with my daughter, I was exercising, and I was like, man, I want her to be able to climb trees without getting yelled at in like a park. I want her to just be able to be unencumbered and go biking somewhere without me having to worry about her. And so my husband and I really started thinking about other places that we could move that would offer that natural environment where they could just go outside and explore and play. And I applied for a number of admin positions, and Waupaca was the first job that I was offered. And it seemed like a great fit because my parents still live here. So we had childcare sometimes and their support. And it's, they're wonderful, wonderful people that we enjoy spending time with. So it's just been a really great transition to move back. And yes, they do climb lots of trees.
Now I fell in love with Waupaca for the same reasons. And then being able to watch Joe go through the school system with the same kids and all that, because when I went to school, it was much larger, and the schools would get divided into other schools, and so you were really around the same kids a whole lot. Everybody got shipped off different places. And to be quite honest, I have a hard time respecting the educational system in Indiana. I mean, it's not, in my mind, it just wasn't very impressive. But here it was, I don't know. I like to think Joe had a great experience. And he's, all these kids they're not kids anymore. They're adults. They're all still friends.
Yes.
Over at the house all the time. And I think it was a very, very good choice. So the people here are amazing as well.
Yeah.
They really are.
Do you notice a difference, Laura, in other small communities that you may have lived in, or large cities, comparing that with Waupaca? Is there any key differences in your mind that stand out in a good way?
Yeah, well, back to Tim's point, there's something really special about Waupaca and the longevity of relationships. Just a week and a half ago, got together with 4 of my high school friends, and I'm in contact with them all the time. And one of my best friends lived in New York, and I was going there every 6 months, and now she lives in California, and I was going there every 6 months until I started having kids. And so there's something really special, and you find pockets of Waupaca people all over who are still in contact. My older brother's best friends are still Waupaca grads. So there is something there for sure. It's really cool. And that's not normal, Joe. I tell people I'm still friends with friends in high school, and they're like, are you serious? How are you still in contact with them? They just can't believe it. I think what's great about Waupaca in comparison to some of the larger cities is that we do have a lot of culture here now. We do have concerts that you can take the kids to, and art things that they can do. Strawberry Fest is huge. There's always something to do that's family oriented, which is really, really nice. And in ways for our families to grow intellectually as well, which is like Winchester Academy puts on some really great things. So I love that. It's not a intellectual desert, if you will.
Oh yeah. One of the first years my wife and I were married, she wanted to show me Wisconsin, so we came up. Actually, ate at the Wheelhouse, which is a culture shock if you're not from here.
Yeah,
it is. You're in Indiana, you don't see little kids running around right next to the bar. That's what in Indiana, you go to jail for that. Here everybody's just running about, and I mean, it was just different. It was a little bit of culture shock. Well, back then, I mean, you couldn't even buy a beer on Sundays in Indiana.
Wow.
And so, but no, what I noticed was I picked up the local paper. On the front page was I think it was the high school theater had done a show. It was on the front page of the newspaper.
Yeah.
Where I came from, that would never have happened.
Yeah.
You're lucky. You might, they'd be lucky if they even made it into the newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
You might catch, the football team or whatever on there. And I remember telling my wife, I mean, we've got to move here. It just seemed to pay that much attention to the youth. Was impressive to me, because I'd never seen that before.
That's really true.
So,
and working in the school district, I can say that those teachers work so hard, and they love what they do, and they're passionate about the kids. And I mean, there's so much love for the students and wanting the best for the kids. So that's really good for me to see as a parent too, just knowing that my kids are in really good hands. And then talking about longevity, so many staff members have been here for the duration of their careers. So they are deeply invested and rooted in the community, which also helps create that family feel.
This episode is presented by Northern Kitchen. Northern Kitchen is a brand new store that is in Lucky Tree's family of stores on Main Street in downtown Waupaca. This new kitchen store is on the corner in the last block on North Main Street. It looks fantastic in there. You have to see it to believe it. My mom, Michelle Drake, has been working really hard on this store. It looks great in there. There are lots of great kitchen gadgets that you cannot find anywhere else in the area. Make sure to shop at Northern Kitchen on Main Street in Waupaca.
I wanted to touch on something too quick. You had mentioned you had written a book. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? And maybe experiences that led to that?
Sure.
Okay, cool.
So I joined the Army National Guard my freshman year of college. I never ever aspired to really do anything for the military because I just claim naivety with it all. I didn't know the difference between a private and a colonel, or that there was an enlisted rank and an officer rank. But I really didn't want to have college debt. And I was in crew my freshman year, rowing on the boats, the long skinny row.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Okay. A lot of times I say I'm in crew and people have no idea what I'm talking about. So anyways, walking home from school in February, I'm like, what am I going to do? Where am I going to get a job this summer? How am I going to pay for school? How am I going to stay in shape? How am I going to have adventure still? And then it just hit me. Why not join the National Guard? I can serve our country. I can knock all those other things off the list. And, it'll give me purpose and something to, I really am a service oriented person. And so it'll help with that. And so it was March of 2001. And my friend said, actually, one of my good high school friends from Waupaca said, do it. What's going to happen in the next 6 years? And then 6 months later was September 11th. So you can, understand that there was a big whoa. So I was deployed for 16 months and spent about 14 of those months in Baghdad, Iraq as a military police officer. And the war was not bad for the first few months I was there. And then it did a complete 180. And we started losing, we lost the first female soldier in the history of the National Guard. And we're getting Purple Hearts a lot. Roadside bombs were prevalent every single day. You just never really knew if you're going to make it. Mortars flying into our compound every night. I mean, it went from being like a camping adventure to like true war. And I journaled every single day while I was there. So this is one of my journals, pictures of my family on it. And then got home and I wrote a book using all of my journal entries. And it's, the original title was How to Peace Standing Up, because as a female in a war environment, you can't knock on somebody's door to use their bathroom. And you also can't drop trow in the middle of an urban fighting environment, because first of all, I wouldn't want to do that for my own sake, but this is a super conservative country. So that would have been just a very disrespectful thing to do anyways. So I had to learn how to go to the bathroom through a funnel. So I thought it was a funny title, How to Peace Standing Up. And my editor and publisher really liked the name Sirens. So we compromised and used both.
If you don't mind me asking, I know, well, I was born after 9/11, so I wasn't a baby or anything when that was happening. And I've heard many stories about what normal everyday life was like before and after 9/11. But if you don't mind, since you're in the military already before and after 9/11, what were some big differences, since you knew there was going to be a conflict from this? What were some changes that maybe we wouldn't expect us normal people that weren't in the military?
Well, so September 11th happened, and I had, one of those really brick-like Nokia phones, and by the time I had to leave for my college class, so it happened about 8:30 to like 10 o'clock was when all this was spiraling on the news. And I think I had a 10:30 class or something. And I got there and I said to the teacher, I'm like, listen, I am in the National Guard. I have no idea if I'm going to get a phone call today or if I'm going to have to go do something. So I'm going to leave my phone on my desk And this was when it was completely taboo and people were still weirded out by people talking on their phones on the streets. Like, why are you airing out your dirty laundry in front of everybody? But my professor was very, Tim, do you remember like that transition, that weird transition, the first time you saw somebody talking on the street, you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I mean, you're talking to somebody who just recently got a smartphone. I'd had a flip phone for like 15 years.
You're smart. You're smart. So, so I didn't get a call that day, but then we either got an email or finally got a phone call, and it was just like, hold fast. We're not doing anything. Nothing's happening. But when we started drilling, which was once a month for the National Guard, it came to a point where we were counting all of our weapons. We were really inspecting like our night vision goggles and making sure that we had everything for everybody, and then mass ordering things that we might need for this impending war. And again, we didn't know what was going to happen. People started invading Afghanistan or, going to Afghanistan. But remember, I went to Iraq. So there was this whole shift, and it was a year and a half. No, I'm sorry. It was a year and a half after 9/11 before I got deployed, because we were deployed in March of 2003. And we were put on active duty 4 days before we actually bombed Baghdad. So, Joe, this might be a really good history lesson for you, or maybe you know this, but George W. Bush gave Saddam Hussein the ultimatum of turn over your weapons of mass destruction, which are described as, nuclear weapons, turn them over, or we're going to invade your country. And Saddam Hussein didn't turn anything over. Did he have a lot of weapons and a giant caches of rockets and tons of ways to hurt many, many people? Yes, but I don't think he ever had, not to my very humble specialist rank status, I don't think he ever had any nukes. At any rate, Saddam Hussein didn't turn anything over, so we invaded. And I was sitting at the barracks at Fort McCoy, listening to a radio because there was no television. I felt like it was World War II again, listening to the radio on the invasion of Baghdad. And then the Marines came through and kind of took over the country. And then we came in, and we were the very first permanent establishment in Baghdad. We lived in a bombed out building that was owned by one of Saddam Hussein's top guys. I was just looking at rewatching some of the video that I shot while there, and it is complete rubble and soot and black and charred walls, ceilings, floors, everything, with massive holes going through the whole building. And that's where we lived for 9 months. Wow. Because there was no permanent establishment there. So anyways, got home, and I was just like, this is a story that should be told. Like there's stuff. We saw and did a lot of stuff that the general public probably doesn't know anything about.
How do you even begin, though? We touched on this earlier when we were talking. How do you even begin to describe it? So, because not everybody's going to be able to understand it completely. That's what I marvel at when I do read something, when they actually can put me right there with them. How do you even begin to do that?
Well, I just try to take all the senses in when I'm writing. And then also when I got home, there were some very specific moments where I suffered some pretty bad post-traumatic stress episodes. And so I really called those out and tried to give as much detail as possible. And I cannot tell you how many civilians have come up to me and said, oh my gosh, I totally understand what my dad went through. Or I totally understand what my cousin went through now, or I get it better. I can empathize with them more. And that was really one of the purposes of the book, was to bridge the military and the civilian divide, so that you can have somewhat of a better idea of what it's like to go to war. And then, I talk about the brotherhood and the sisterhood of arms, and how you become such a family and so close knit, because like what you touched on, Tim, if you weren't there, it's really hard for other people to grasp it. And so you have this very special bond just because of that.
Yeah, it's always kind of bothered me. And at the same time, I'm kind of grateful, I guess, in a sense that, person's lost in their day-to-day activities, going to get their coffee in the morning or whatever, and never gives this sort of thing a second thought.
Mm.
You know, of what someone else may have had to go through so they can go get their cup of coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, and I get the disconnect. I do.
Yeah.
You know, unless you've been part of something, and I'm going to say special, even though it could be horrific.
Mm.
At the same time, you know, it's just hard to fathom.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, you talk to many veterans, and 4th of July is a really rough time of year because of fireworks. And so it's just really good to remember before you shoot a firework off, if you have neighbors that are veterans, just let them know. Like having some semblance of knowledge that it's happening puts me at so much more ease than like having it just go off without me knowing. Because that's really what gets me, is that unknown. Boom.
Yeah. Well, you know, you're seriously, thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you.
My father was a Vietnam vet. And unless he never talked about it, unless maybe he had a little too much to drink, then sometimes he would tell me stuff that I probably shouldn't have been hearing. That wasn't very good.
He probably should have gotten off his chest, right?
Yeah, but where was he going to go to get it off his chest? I like to think now things are maybe a little better. You know, but yeah, I mean, he struggled with it for a very long time. So he never had any friends from that time. He quit. They kind of, what he told me, and I don't know if this was the combination of the alcohol and the experience, but he said he quit making friends while he was there because they weren't around very long. So
I believe it.
And you know, I can't comprehend what that's like.
Yeah.
And
it's like why it's the same reason why you don't name your livestock, right? You don't want to get too attached.
Well, that being said, I kind of grew up on my grandparents' farm, and we did name our chickens that we butchered later. Anyway, so
yeah, I mean, so I was towards the end of the deployment driving a Humvee in about a 5 or 6 long convoy. And we were always either the head vehicle or one of the head vehicles, and I was always the driver. And I thought my gunner had slammed something really hard on the Humvee roof. I had no idea what it was. Like I thought he dropped his ammo can or something. And I was about to yell at him, like, don't make loud noises like that. I think it's a bomb. And then this Humvee just zooms right past me and slams into a garage because that Humvee hit an IED. And the compression of the bomb literally sucked the driver out of the vehicle. You know, like when you see the mushroom clouds where they kind of go up, like that's what happened. It compressed and then pulled her out. And the gunner was one of my best friends. Her name was Carly Garcia, like the one person who could just make me laugh no matter what. And they couldn't find her at first. They thought that she was just gone, but she was knocked in the fetal position, unconscious inside the vehicle with shrapnel wounds all over her face and arms. And the tip of her saw was an inch off, was just sawed right off from a piece of shrapnel. So if her head was up by the tip of her gun, she probably wouldn't have made it. I mean, just so many different facets. But I remember thinking and probably saying out loud, like, you cannot tell me that Carly's gone. I cannot go through this war without her. And so I can imagine if your dad had any of those sentiments, like just staying away from people was probably the best thing. So he could just lean on himself, and that's it.
Is your friend physically okay now?
She still does not have full function of one of her hands. And she suffers from hearing damage and definitely some post-traumatic stress, but she is a physician. Like she lives a full life out in Montana. And actually I think she's now a fly fishing guide, which is even cooler.
Where in Montana?
By Bozeman. She ended up in Big Sky, and I don't remember if she moved back down to Bozeman or not.
Okay. Yeah, I have a sister that lives out in Montana. Where was she at? No, Missoula.
Oh, yeah. I love Missoula. That is such a cool town.
Yeah, Joe and I, well, my nephew was graduating high school. Joe and I took the train out, which I would highly recommend to anybody. It was a great trip.
Awesome.
Get the car with the meals though. You don't want to just eat out of vending machines because the food's actually pretty good.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was a really cool trip. But except my son, how old were you, Joe? Because you woke up really early that one morning wanting to play Wheel of Fortune on your phone.
Yeah,
Like
I
1 o'clock in
I
the
feel
morning.
bad about that. It was like
You were
it was like
little still.
yeah.
You're like,
I
I
was
can't
like
sleep.
4:30 in the morning,
Something.
or something, and I had a bunch of energy because you're just sitting on the train all day. Because going from Portage here in Wisconsin to uh, the west side of Montana is at least a day and a half trip, and so I was definitely had a lot of energy, and I guess I woke you up to play Wheel of Fortune on a little iPod or something, an iPod Touch. They don't even make those anymore.
I know.
But yeah, it's worth it if you go on a train to make sure you're in a dining car, and also to have your own little room, especially if you're tall like myself, uh, or if you just have more room that way compared to, in an airplane style kind of seating. If you're doing that for a day and a half, that's going to be a long trip compared to
How tall are you, Joe?
an airplane. I'm 6'6".
Oh boy.
We couldn't fit in that little room now. We'd have to get one of the bigger rooms. Back then,
Yeah.
you could still fit in it. There's no way you could fit in it, though. Although my dad went with us to Montana, and he was 6'4", and he fit in there, but I don't know how.
Huh.
So I'm only
He
like
was,
5'10", so.
he was
Oh.
also by himself though in his room. Like me and you were together, and it was you and then 11-year-old me, so we could fit. But
Yeah,
you
you
can't
got
have two
bored
people over
quick.
6 foot in those little rooms. I wouldn't think it'd be very difficult.
Well, my husband's 6'4" and I'm 6 foot, so I
Okay.
imagine our kids are going to be pretty big too. But it would be a fun trip to take as a family, that's for sure.
Yeah, your kids probably will be pretty tall. There's a bunch. I'm the shortest one. All my niece is 6'2" or 6'3". She was actually in the S.T.E.A. basketball tournament, women's tournament.
Cool.
It was really cool to see her in that. She played ball for Belmont her first year. Then I think she decided not to, just because it was so time consuming. So,
yes. Well, and that was the same way with crew. It was 6 hours a day during finals in the spring, and I was like, I don't even love doing this. It's so much time. I love the relationships I made, and it was fun. I didn't love it. So
I used to do caving trips, and I had my right-hand person. Her name was Beth. I've known Beth for a long time, and she was just an excellent, I won't even say helper. I mean, she was, she could have easily done this stuff herself. She didn't even need me. But she was 8 months pregnant with her husband, Mark, and me and one of my best friend and one of Joe's godfathers, Dominic, decided we were in the area where they lived. So we looked her up and said, "Oh yeah, you want to go play? Yeah, you want to go play some golf?" She said, "Oh, sure." 8 months pregnant, and Beth's not terribly tall anyway. So she was, she looked big, she was pregnant.
Yeah.
She just kicked our asses all over the place. And we're like, and Dominic's a really good golfer. I'm just kind of, Yeah, we're just like looking at her going, how's this possible? And then she's like, "Oh, yeah, I was a golf prodigy, played with Tiger Woods. I'm supposed to be the next big women's golfer and everything, but it was just so time consuming. I wanted a life." And
oh
I'm like,
my gosh.
"Worked with you for years. You've never mentioned this."
She's your ringer for those fundraising golf tournaments, huh?
Yeah, she's in Southern Indiana now. I think Terre Haute, she might have moved towards Indy. I don't remember. I know she plays a lot of golf. Actually, at the Indy 500, they have a golf course in the middle of that thing. So,
really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So anyway, that's my story. But we were floored. We're like, and you can't appreciate how awesome somebody like that is when they're doing that kind of, like, she's obviously exceptional at the sport.
Mm.
Just see with the grace and ease that she was just kicking us all over the place.
That's so funny.
So, oh yeah. So, are you a sports person? Boating, golf,
Yeah.
anything like
Yeah.
that?
So my first, well, I graduated with a kinesiology degree and was doing physical education.
Okay.
And actually with adaptive certificate, so I could work with people with special needs.
Do you mind mentioning exactly? I looked it up, but do you mind maybe summarizing what kind of degree that is?
The kinesiology,
Yeah.
well, it's the study of body and movement.
Okay.
But at UW-Madison, you have to get a kinesiology degree and go through the education department at the same time to get your physical education degree. So I had to do like 2 different portfolios and like 2 exit things for both departments in order to become a teacher.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I mean, I played every sport under, I have 2 brothers. So I was always playing sports, basketball, volleyball, soccer, softball. I absolutely love pickleball and badminton and you know, everything that I can get my hands on, I love to do. Volleyball is definitely my main sport and one that I still play. The only thing I can't do is downhill ski. I have no idea why. I tried it 3 times and failed miserably every time. So I figure that's God's way of saying, like, stay away from the hill.
I can ski, I just can't stop.
Yes. I stop with a face plant in the snow.
It's about right. Find a hay bale, hope for the best.
Yeah, but I love sports and I love being active and you know, hopefully I mean, if whatever my kids decide to do, we'll be happy. But like they could very well be very good athletes if they put their minds to it, I think.
Sure. Is your husband he very athletic as well? Then?
Yeah. He you know, he grew up in a town of 900 in the middle of a farm field in Illinois. And so there wasn't a whole lot of opportunities for him, but he did do baseball and he's very good at it. And he never played volleyball in his life and joined our adult league and rocked out of the park. So he's definitely got that athleticism in him and is very good at anything he picks up.
Is there an adult league in Waupaca for volleyball?
Yeah. So there's indoor at the rec center in the fall and in the winter-ish, you know, fall and spring. And then there's, I know the Chain Bar does sand volleyball and there's other places around just those small surrounding communities that do sand volleyball too.
I wanted to go back to when you were at the middle school as a principal. Since you're now director at the Waupaca Community Arts Hub, and you were before that the principal at the Waupaca Middle School, what did you take from being a principal to now being a director at the Arts Hub? Because in both professions, you are educating kids. It's just, you know, at the Arts Hub, you're not going to have math.
Yeah, it's been really cool because we have a very strong relationship with all the schools still, and that, as I said, it's very much so an extension of what they're already learning. And for example, one of our music teachers is actually going to help out with the middle school band by offering small sectionals or independent lessons or individual lessons so that those kids can become a little more proficient in each instrument and hopefully help make the band even stronger than it already is. The band instructors work their tails off. So if we can help them in any way, we want to do that. And so it's this really great partnership that we can bring together. And it's been really fun because I've had some very wonderful kids, you know, that see me out and about say they miss me, but they know that they can always come and see me at the Arts Hub. And that's been really rewarding. And then I get to go over into those classrooms and help out with art classes or just chit chat with the kids before and after. And so it's a lot of what I did as a teacher and as a principal has really helped me with my ability to relate to all ages of kids and find a need or find their niche and welcome them in and make sure that they feel like they have a place to belong at the hub.
Is there anything in particular that you're trying to do at the hub that maybe you thought needed to be done in order to improve at all that maybe the schools are just unable to do? Because, you know, if you're just with a choir, like there's going to be, I remember being in middle school choir, there's like 50 kids in there. You can't go to every single one in like 40 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, we do offer voice lessons for those students that want to go above and beyond or do really well at solo and ensemble or enhance their voice for the musical or whatever it is. We can be that offshoot for sure. Um, I will tell you though, after seeing what those art teachers do at the schools, they do such an incredible job of with all ages, the things that my my first and second grade and third grader are bringing home and the things that the middle school teacher does and the things that the high school teacher, they're all wonderful educators. And so hopefully we can meet the kids not only where they're at, but perhaps reach some of those kids who don't have time to take an art class, say in high school. Like I was one of them. I was involved in too much that I never entered into the arts, which was really unfortunate. So I would have been a perfect advocate for the hub. And hey, just come for once a week for an hour, hour and a half, and take this class and become proficient in this medium of art. And for kids, we eventually want to get a kiln and do pottery and have our own pottery studio. And for the kids who really find a niche in that or a love with that, and same thing with just community members of all ages, they can come in and use the hub's pottery room. And so just offering those opportunities is going to be huge.
I am also wondering about media arts in particular. I want to know, are you doing anything or planning in the future on having anything involving media arts?
So you're talking about like doing little movies and stuff like that. Is that what you, yes. So
like filmmaking, screenwriting, anything with maybe even being an author.
Yeah, we actually had a comic book class last spring. And so a few kids left with their own homemade comic books, which was really cool. And Tim Pachillo is he's made his own movie at home. And so we can definitely do like make your own movie with him and all of his resources. And we've not talked about screenwriting, but that's certainly something that Joe, in the future we can talk about if you're interested in helping us with that at all. And then yeah, and you said that you've interviewed Greg Biba, and I myself have written a book, and so we could definitely do like a writer's corner at some point and have people who are interested in writing their own book. Tim, you can join us and write about your adventures and maybe publish someday. And I mean, that would be fun too. So really, to answer your question, Joe, there's no limit to the opportunities that we can provide. As long as we have an instructor or a group of people willing to come in and help guide us through that, that's what we need. And, obviously community members who show an interest in that too, but we want to make the community dreams come true. And so whatever they are, we want to be able to meet them where they're at.
Yeah, because I know with media especially, I was more interested in getting into that later in high school. It wasn't like something I always wanted to do since middle school or whatnot. Mm-hmm. But anyone at home can do something media related now compared to maybe 10 or 15 years ago. Because there's YouTube now, like even your phone cameras are so good, you don't need to really have anything else to start out if you want to do anything involving streaming or vlogging. But yeah, I think there is somewhat of a feeling sometimes that we're in the middle of Wisconsin, we aren't in a big city or on a coast, and so people don't think of it as an idea of I can do something in media. It just doesn't come to mind. And I feel like with media keeping on progressing and with the Arts Hub, maybe we'll see some change in that because I see a lot more people interested in being creative. So I'm very fascinated to see the growth of the Arts Hub in that way, and to see how many kids at a younger age are like, oh, I can do this as a career possibly.
Yeah. We've been in conversations with the Foundry and the robotics group at the high school, middle school as well, and seeing if we can offer STEAM classes and additions in that realm at the hub, which would be really cool too. So become a STEAM center for the city, or whatever it is.
What do you mean by STEAM?
So STEAM is, or you might have heard of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, right? And so STEAM is just adding the arts aspect to that.
Okay, I understand.
So like it would be like I see the robot boxing on TV. You mean stuff like that? Like
so
make it more artsy?
Yeah, the robotics team brought the robot that they made, which shoots baskets. But there's so many different things that you can do with makerspace labs. And, when you're even just a part of that design process, a lot of that is arts in the design. And so there's many ways that you can incorporate the arts into the STEM or the STEAM.
And there's so many seriously talented people around here too. My friend Greg, he just retired from the Foundry, and I can't even pronounce what he does. It amazes me. He had Foundry in a box, and he was an engineer for them and so forth.
Yeah.
And he's big into EAA, and so he flies his little remote control airplanes, but the detail and stuff, that reason I bring that up, in my mind, it's all part of the arts. It's all intertwined.
Exactly.
Yeah, and math is definitely part of art. You look at Michelangelo's work, and so forth. I mean, he didn't just, come up with that stuff and start throwing it around. He actually put some thought in it. But now, I'd like to remind the other 4 people listening to this podcast that, we definitely, I'm a big supporter of the arts around here, and keep in mind, it's all educational. It's not just the arts, but the historical society, all of it. It's all part of the education in Waupaca. Not one-dimensional by a long shot. So.
Well, and there's so much data to back up how important it is to have music in your life. And, people who know how to play piano are that much more proficient later on in life in a variety of different subject matters. And the arts within a community really brings people together and has a huge impact on a community's well-being.
Well, I went down to see how the stores were doing. I think it might have been yesterday, and some kids had been out, and I think it's Huck and Finn had left chalk out. It's a new store downtown. The other 4 people listening, go visit. But some kids had been out, and and there was just they've been doing their artwork all up and down the sidewalk, and I love that. That's so cool, and so I'm glad people try to encourage it. I am. So
we're going to get a outdoor piano and put it outside the bookseller, so people can just go and play piano on Main Street, which is going to be super cool.
That's amazing.
John's down with that.
Yeah.
Here, before we end this amazing episode, Podpaca, I just want to let you know that this wouldn't have been possible without Lucky Tree and its family of stores. Lucky Tree is great for all your Christmas shopping. Yes, that's coming up. You should get it all done now. Christmas is just right around the corner. And while you're at it, you might as well get your Thanksgiving shopping done. Get your turkey presents. Do you have little stocking stuffers stuffed inside the turkey? I don't know. I'm not going to judge. Just do your Thanksgiving shopping at Lucky Tree or Northern Home. Do it at Northern Home. Northern Home's great. It's a little more woodsy. If you have a cabin fever vibe during the winter, go to Northern Home. Or, it's Thanksgiving, go to Northern Kitchen. It's a kitchen store. You're eating food. Go to the kitchen store so you can prepare it, and your family will like Thanksgiving, and your family will like the food they're eating, and feel stuffed while watching a terrible Detroit Lions football game. Now, make sure to go to Lucky Tree. They're open Monday through Saturday, or go to Northern Home, or go to Northern Kitchen. Just go to all three of them. Go to all three stores. And also listen to Podpaca. Do all those things.
The beginning stages of capital campaign with the Historical Society.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Are you on the board for that?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
No, it's been enjoyable. I like working with Tracy and her, and
yeah, she's great.
Randy have been good friends for quite some time now. So, and they're good folks. But
yeah, I think Tracy and I are going to start up a group called WIN for Women's Influential Network, and have like a women's group in town.
You should.
Yeah, trying to just get together women who want to impact the community positively, and maybe we can, oh my gosh, you're doing that, I'm doing that, but over here, and maybe we can merge, or like just ways to make life simpler for everybody, but yet still have a really great impact on the community.
Yeah, no, we've been big advocates of that sort of thing.
Yeah. You're speaking my language right now.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of, I always tell people there's a reason all the car dealerships are along one strip normally. You know what I mean? It's the same concept in town. The more stuff you have there, the better people are working together. The more tourists are going to come. The more people are going to want to come visit, and maybe even move there.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
And Aaron Jensen seems to have this down pat. He really does. I've really been impressed with our city, the direction they've taken. Rewriting, changing the verbiage in the tax districts, then opening up all that funding has done nothing but help, in my opinion. And hopefully they'll continue to do that. So, anyway, I'm babbling. I'll quit.
Yeah.
Thanks for agreeing.
Yeah.
Well, we all have better lives. We get along better, right? And like, just because somebody had a rift 25 years ago doesn't mean we need to harbor that same rift or keep it up. Like,
you need, everybody needs a little bit more thick skin. Let things roll off sometimes.
Yes.
So
I do want to thank you for your service once again. And I also want to thank you for being on this podcast, and especially for, we did talk about some serious subjects, and I appreciate you being willing to share your experience with us. And just one quick last question. If I wanted to sign up for a class, do you want me to go to your website, or is there another way I should be doing that? What should I do?
The website is the best place to go to register. Yeah, because the registration's right on there. You can check out, and then we'll have all of the information we need to move forward. And the scholarship's right there as well. So you can sign up for the scholarship if you need it too.
And this is WaupacaArtsHub.org.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep. So make sure to go there if you want to sign up for any classes. Thank you again to Laura Colbert for joining us today. And I hope that everyone has a great day out there, and to make sure to follow us on Facebook, on our Facebook page for any updates on Podpaca, and to keep on listening or to keep on watching. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.